Good morning, everybody. Today is MT Live. We'll get you the link. 12 o'clock morning. All right, so yesterday was what we anticipated. A lot of wiggles, and we still got wiggles here this morning. You can see we're up a little earlier and they're drifting back down towards support. And so that's where we look for buyers to step in and hold it in this area. And so we got this strong move up. We're looking at 15-minute of the futures here. That's what I'm pointing to. You can see it's performing a topping tail. It is on some support here, actually pretty significant support. And as prices have come down over the last few days, we'll cover this today at 12 o'clock, but sentiment is really close to what would be a buy signal. Breadth isn't even there, and I'm thinking breadth may not even get there, but we'll see. Right? That's why we'll have to constantly monitor these things until we get a signal. But anyway, so the bullish case or the bullish move that occurred earlier is now pulling back. As I said, buyers should show up here. So we'll be looking to see if it can hold this area or come all the way back down again. I suspect the market is waiting for the economic news later this week, and it is options expiration. I think I mentioned yesterday that most times, whatever kind of uh, larger moves occur, it tends to whip back in the other direction, and until those options get squashed, the premium in those options, and so that's what's been going on. It's just a big mess, and so now that it's at support, we're looking to see if it can rally up into the middle of the range or whether it just goes sideways down here. And the longer it takes not to move up, the greater the potential for it to move down. But sentiment moving in the direction that it is, I think for the moment that puts a floor under things for the most part until after the options expiration. Let's take a look at the other markets. So NASDAQ futures, doing the same thing. Notice what happened right up there at the high. In the area of this high, it pops up, whips right back down again. Look at that 2-bar reversal. That's a range expansion 2-bar reversal, which is much more powerful than a little one. Right? There's a little 180 and there's a big 180. And the bigger the bars, the more emotion is attached to it, and the more the potential for disappointment in this case is what it was. And the same thing when it happens on the downside. If you get this and flip it upside down in an area of support, greater potential for it to move back up again. And this is a little bit more attractive, but still, up and back down again. So far holding its support. The patterns have just been pretty messy, erratic, which is displaying uncertainty. I'd keep an eye down here to see potentially a failure. There's this pivot line lined up with these pivot lows. If we were to get one of those reversals like I showed you in the other pattern, some kind of downside shakeout in this area, and then a little sideways action, that could be something that we could take advantage of. And YM, as you can see, daily chart is just a lot of patterns that are going nowhere as everybody awaits to see, can it go back up again or is it going to come back down to support? So pretty choppy stuff happening. Let's look at bonds since I've got on this chart here. Hey, they had a big move up. They breaking down. No, I showed you this pattern right here. So these shock bars, these attempts to move up, these failure patterns that occur in alignment with the trend. This is the bar I'm talking about right there. These type of bars that form an alignment with a downtrend after a break like that historically are super reliable. In this case would have been to send it down lower. And this market has been plagued by a lot of whipsaws lately. So now it's up and pulling back a bit. So we'll see if this is what's in the cards or another deep move back down again. All right. Bitcoin, another chart doing a lot of nothing. Let's just go here. So back and forth, waiting for data, economic data, something to move these markets because none of them are moving much at this time. And Ethereum, same story, just marking time. Whichever way this breaks, I guess that's going to be a go with. And hopefully we don't get another one of these larger reversals that whipsaw it. But look, the beauty of price patterns is that they communicate to us, what other people are doing and what they experience. So even if this was to break lower and flip back up again, some kind of if it was a whipsaw, those whipsaws in combination with others are really powerful patterns. So right now, this just communicates staying away. Oil's up here this morning, but in the context of whipping back and forth. So a lot of uncertainty in all these markets, and we'll be keeping an eye to see if this can go, if it goes back up. Of course, that's going to raise inflation concerns. It's been back and forth with, is the Fed going to cut? Are they not going to cut? And it just doesn't stop. For now, gold. I thought maybe it can clear these highs with this green bar with its reversal here, and it just flip right back down again. So this is just continues to mark time. These patterns just do not support on the daily time frame doing anything until we get some resolution to the erratic price action that's going on. Silver coming closer to this pivot low. Now, it doesn't have to go there, but you see, I marked it off yesterday as a reference. And so as I'm looking at this, and like today's beginning of a reversal of a red bar, you can see this has the appearance of what might be the beginnings of a head and shoulders bottom or a downside shakeout. Call it whatever you want. These patterns make a new low. They suggest they're going to go down. They have deep retracements and then pullbacks. So this is something we'll see how this develops in the next day or so. And if that does set up, that would support taking out these highs, and, up into the void. And that is, potentially what, the equity futures might do. Meaning, so back to the S&Ps here, and you'll see it's just moving back and forth. Nothing to do at the moment, but you can see on the 65-minute this long consolidation and the blip down and the move back up again. So, here's a pullback pattern after taking out these highs and wide range bars or a whole bunch of bars moving down in a smaller time frame, higher time frame, lower time frame. You go here, and if I squash it, you can see, expanding the data, you get more bars. The idea here, right, is that if it can clear those highs, we can clear these highs, got room to go up. But we'll have to see if that's going to happen. All right, let's take a look at, well, we're just constantly in development mode here. See which way things are going to go. So financials, there's good and there's bad, meaning this is bad, right? Breakdown in financials, and it's stabilizing, and it's not doing much of anything today. And so, this would suggest being a bit more bearish. And then we can look at other things, semiconductors, which look pretty darn good. This is one of the semiconductor indices that looks pretty good. Like it should be able to continue to go higher. Uh, KRE we looked at yesterday, pullback, not doing much of anything this morning. That looks really good. We look at, um, this is, you got the split here, but that looks not so good. So that's why I said, the breadth, as you can see here, is just oscillating back and forth, not really doing much of anything. A little bit more downside price action, may not have to be anything of significance, and sentiment really gets to an extreme. And that might be the end of, well, I don't know about the end, but more of an attempt to move back up toward the top of the range one more time. And so you can see the spiders there just back and forth within a range now for a few months. And is it accumulation or is it distribution? We wait to see. We just don't have any convincing patterns yet. So the question becomes, is it going to break down below here? And I think, the majority beginning to bet on that happening will have the effect of putting a floor under it. And so as this is consolidating, you can see there on the 65-minute, maybe it can make an attempt to push up into the void. All right, SPX, I said yesterday, was highly unlikely was going to go lower, and it held up really well. Kind of dipped down there and came back up again. I thought possibly, when it was moving lower, that it could get closer to the 67.50, but it never did, and it came off of the lows. And these numbers have been jiggling around quite a bit pre-market, as the futures have moved up and down. You see, this has come up a little from yesterday, but still way down there. So there's still plenty of bearish sentiment there, betting that it's going to go lower. And as I said, that will have a tendency to put a floor under it. I think as long as it holds above yesterday's low, it's going to just stay in this trading range. And upside, anything above 6,900, I think is safe. I think anything below 67.50 will be safe. But yesterday's low, like every day, the prior day's low is always our first reference point of support, and the prior day's high is our first reference point of resistance. And maybe as I'm looking at the pattern, one more day of consolidation here, and can make a better attempt to go up. And whatever's going to happen in a more significant way is more likely to happen after the options expiration. But getting another day going sideways here would complete what I think would be a bottoming process on the 65-minute chart that could lead to a move up. So concerned with this? I don't know about concerned. I think that's an upside target. Anytime you have a confluence of things coming together, like two moving averages, right? They're subjective. The moving averages that we choose, 6,900, which has been where prices have whipped back and forth around. So coming up into that number with an options expiration week, that is a targeted area. However, there's nothing to the left, as you can see. So while we would look at that and say, that's a resistance area, it's just an area is the key word. So it could continue to move up. And we look at, just the basics of, hey, this is where it fell from, this area, just because those are coming together and that number is there, it doesn't mean it can't get through it. So if it did, and as they come up here, my thinking would be it gets dragged back down toward that number. So that's just putting together a thought process of how to deal with that area. I don't want to get stuck on it and think, hey, it can't get through that, because a lot of times we see prices get through a whole number like that, even when there's a lot of open interest in that area. It tends to push up through it and then come right back down again. So, and of course, like when you're seeing what's happening, any prices coming up to some resistance, and you're trading it, let's just say from the 5 minute time frame, does it violate a prior day's low? And what does it do when it gets there? Does it go sideways? Does it keep going up? What's the reaction? So we got to be aware of things like that. All right. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. Just to see what's going on here. The volatility index just whipping back and forth. Same up when it went down. And yeah, I think the takeaway is, what I've already said is, where kind of bars do we get in the next day or so going into the big economic numbers at the end of the week? So that being said, to you, Dan.
Are you done?
Yes.
All right, didn't hear you. Good morning. So slow bleed pullback. I agree with Greg. Maybe one more day of just chopping sideways. Let's do what we do every day. This G cost I'm watching. It's a bear 1, 2, 3, 4. No, this is a void. Low alarm went off here, so maybe 10, 15, 30-minute low. I don't know. Put it in the window and let's watch it. All right, this Mercy and shoot is gapping up. Pod is gone. Good G cost there. Look at Mercy. That's its earnings, but that's a beautiful closing breakout of a bull rectangle. Look, that's multi-month closing breakout. Bullish weekly, monthly. So I was hoping this thing would open flat, and then we'd buy yesterday's high, but my up alarm just pegged up there. And it's not liquid, so it's not that real. Nvidia. Yeah, buy setup, up alarm went off. This was earnings also. Came down hard, so you don't expect a new high, but it's fluid coming down. Target, look, that would have been my target, 1160. So I forget about that one. ARM. This is a little bull flag buy setup. And do you remember we were talking about this amazing reversal bar here, and I gave a target of 130? Look at that, it hit it. It went to 131. So now my new target is the 200 MA. So that still looks good. Odd. This is moving too much, 265. But that's a very bullish gap. You have railroad tracks, and it's gapping up there over 3 weeks of data. So that's a good spread idea. Tesla, nothing. Pelletier, we did a put spread yesterday. Double bottom, new low plus, gapping up. I tightened the stop under here, under 130. Tighter break even or under 130. That was a nice, it's not a bottoming pattern. It's a It's a W bottom reversal for a bounce. The video I was watching yesterday for a put spread. And that's gapping up, holding well. If there's any juice at 180, we can look at HCKT. Flymo had an up alarm. Now let's see where that opens. HCKT. All right. Those are all my alarms. Let's go. Oh no, one more here. Ever alarm went off. Another Climo. All right, I had an up alarm go off, but now that I see that's not real. So I will reset the alarm at 1475. Now, look at Texan moving here today. That's a bull rectangle. That's a gap breakout. And so that's a walk directional and put spread. Let me put that in a window. Texans. And now we'll go to earnings. I deleted a bunch already. So if I don't cover yours, ask. Pan W, ugly gap. But real company. Hey, look at this prior low over here. A big old even. Well, it's gapping like $1 under it, but let's keep an eye on this for a 30-minute high put spread. CDNS. We were actually short that, covered it into the close. 299. If I can clear these highs, then put spread. Charlie Echo, gap in the 58. When it was gap in the 60, I would, it wouldn't be a textbook M pattern, but gap in the resistance, 30-minute low would have been call spread idea. Right. Asking about bullish. A little gap over the small base. I see it at 32.20. Yeah, not a very big. I mean, you still got resistance here and here, but it's a continuation pattern. Maybe 30-minute high. Wing. Yeah, that was earnings yesterday. Gaps up 280. Wow. The heck is no 218. It was this morning. All right, I thought that had earnings yesterday. Or no, one of you mentioned it in the room that it was ripping yesterday. Wow, that's a powerful gap, and that is holding amazingly strong pre-market. Yeah, WDC was in the news. That's a put spread idea, and then look at SanDisk. People think these things are going to go up forever, but come on, man. This thing went from $40 to 730. The Climo on the weekly, the retest and failure on the daily. It's gapping down. So that's I wish the options were more liquid, because that would be a no-brainer call spread over this last week's high. But WDC looks like a good spread, 30-minute high. But I think he's also spready. I'm gonna set an alarm now at 291. Yeah, STX is cousin. And then also MU has been running in that group too. Back to earnings, Mixie, 250. Call spread idea, 10-minute low. If there's any juice and liquidity. gapping up 34. Eh, I guess, yeah, it's just no good. So RBA. Does anyone know why this thing collapsed like this? Was that another AI disaster of some reason? There's a lot of stocks, commercial real estate, Schwab, um, truckers that have this nasty gap like that. Now it's gapping to 113, nothing to do. PBI gapping over all of this. That's an igniting gap from a sideways trend. But I would want to pull back. That's percentage, a pretty big gap. Uh, okay, I had this as a potential bottoming pattern, but now that it's gapping down, forget about it. Yeah, said G, I posted on Telegram, put spread idea. It could be a directional also. But look how wild the bars are. I wanted it to tighten up, but put spread is a go. Um, under these tails because that's the short I mentioned. $54, no pattern. Russia call spread. There's Mercy we know about. Lazy boy. Sam. Disappointed again. It's an ugly gap, Sam. That kind of confirms that you've been lazy. Or maybe you are spending more time at Visco. This packet I mentioned, Climo, that I like on a pullback. Gapping up from a Climo. ADI, what an amazing run that started down here. Bullish consolidation over time, self-correcting uptrend. I mean, I was hoping you were going to gap to 370, but now you're coming in. But that's going to be a call spread one of these days. But see how this weekly is nowhere near as bearish or extended as SanDisk. This was controlled. That's bullish. That's controlled. Look at SanDisk. It's more climactic. The Climo tail, far from the 20, more void. Through all the earnings. So I'll just focus on alarms. JP Morgan. We have a put spread in that, up alarm. Let's move up here now. JP Morgan 304.55. Actually, we should be at half right now. JP Morgan 295. Oh, spreads are nuts. Man, a Dow 30 is stuck. Um, let's just try to close it. I don't know if you're gonna. I'm not in it, but just try to get out what you can when the spreads tighten up. Yeah, 20 is okay. All right, well, All right, now it's 15 cents, so yeah, you should be out at 20. Said, "Gee, what do you want me to do with that, Alex? What do you want me to do? Oh, okay. I will. I thought you were pounding the table as a directional. Yeah, I said over 10-minute high for a call spread. So that's not gonna happen. All right, GCOS, okay, so a little gap failure there. But it was earnings, so you never know what craziness. WTFC is triggering. This was a SAM trade. 154.72. WDC alarm. You can check. I'll check. I'm sure it's gonna be too spreading, 260s. Yeah, dollar 68. Our CFFN long from yesterday, up alarm. Looks good. So let's just reset the alarms higher. That's a nice controlled, well, not so controlled, but nice daily 15 was powering higher. And we entered this thing at 768. Nothing, I can't move the stop yet. 5-minute horsemen are slopping all over the place. Key. Alex, I gotta say, Sam's WTFC is superior to this. Sam, do you want to tell them why? I don't want to get in. I don't have time for a detailed lesson, but let's come back to it later. H Hyatt here it's a day trade idea, maybe 10-minute high. Kind of it's a pseudo inverse head and shoulder. I just had an alarm go off. Oracle, Alex, low alarm. That's a call spread idea. All right, call spread would be 162.50. 47.53. So we won't get a good. Okay, we'll come back to it later. I don't have time. We'll get into it. All right, DFIN up alarm. Nice. Nice. We're in ITA, but I was in DFIN. Look, ITA looks fantastic. Uh, New alarms. Hey, that's Mercy. All right, see, I don't like the gap and crap. I wanted that to open flat. Good about mercy, mercy. And I think I'm caught up on alarms. Let's check opens real quick. Arm is a go if you get filled. That was a put spread. We're in IONQ. It's actually a relative weak now, so he's on probation right now. I don't like that opening ugly bar. So new alarm 33.50. Down alarm 32.50. Pelletier is much better. We're already in it. Looks good. Riot looking better. We have a put spread on that. We can actually move stop break even now. 14, 12 and a half. Midpoint is 11. Let's move it 14.48. Have you out at the high? It came screaming back. Microsoft. You're selling Tesla. Well, depends what you got and what's great. But yeah, I wouldn't do anything beyond zero. And it's Wednesday, so it has zero. Not bad, pull back from a rounding top. And it's Alex, so that's why I liked this other one better. WTFC retraced from more of a V top, and it's a more potent turn. It didn't come as deep into support, held the 20. So this, you can have your own opinion, but I think that is superior to KEY. Yeah, correct. Thanks. All right, this one we bought yesterday. Nothing to do. Coin. Nothing to do. Dollar General's on probation. Gurn. We're in trail mode. GXO. Consolidating. More nothing, Mitzi. Small little grinder. Doing nothing. OPCH, nothing. Sierra November. Fine. All right. So all the opens are fine. They're either looking good or doing nothing. Consolidating, which is fine. Look at there's only that Dollar General with some probation. All right, so that shouldn't have happened. So got no interest in that anymore. And Texan I had on the list, but that's shouldn't have filled the gap. Bitcoin at the low, if it holds here, it still looks great for a bounce, but the entry is over Friday's high. I'm gonna set an alarm 38.50. AD line gapped up positive 680, so that's constructive. Five diamonds. Yeah, I mean, any one of these indexes